All right, welcome to Paper, Pages, and Possibilities, or welcome back if you have it's not your first time on this channel. I definitely appreciate you returning if you are a returning watcher. So today, as promised, we are going to get into ergodic literature. So I know that sounds a lot like erotic, but no, it's far from that. Ergodic literature is basically literature that stretches the boundaries of what a book actually is. So, and they do it in different ways. Some make it more of an experience. Some play with the format of the book itself. So, and we'll look at both types. So, the first format we will look at is the more experience one, because this is one of my absolute favorites. I think probably going to be a favorite of the year because it is so involved. So this is S, or Ship of Theseus is the actual book. So it comes in the slipcover. This is the name of the book, Ship of Theseus. So the book itself, Ship of Theseus, is a story that one man has written. V.M. Straka is the author of the Ship of Theseus. However, we are encountering not only the original story itself, but we are also encountering a story of two people who are writing in the margins of these books. And I'll show you an example. So like right here, as an example, you've got different colors and different handwriting styles. That's two different people talking, and as I understand it, at two separate times. So there's like two different read-throughs. So it's like multiple stories going on at once. So I've had some people talk about reading just the core story, just the printed text, all by itself, one pass through without reading any of these side margins, and then going back a second time and then just reading the margins to get an idea of both stories. I read it all together, which did cause some confusion along the way, but it was very enjoyable. The other part and the experience goes beyond just book notations. This book also includes ephemera, which is basically little bits and bobs of paper and whatnot that are from the two people who are writing in the margins. So, for example, I'll pull this one out here. This is a photograph of something or other that I'm guessing is on, yes, something that's mentioned on this page. So this is another, so we pull out, get to this page of the book. You see the back of the postcard right here. And this postcard was written from one of the people in the book who is writing in the margins to the other person who is writing in the margins. So, yeah, it's really cool, very authentic, and there's like maybe a dozen different types of inserts throughout the book to tell the story, and it's even got the call number, like this was an actual library book, as well as stamps showing the checkout dates. I mean, this is so much, so involved, so engrossing. It's like, it was my, well, not my first introduction in ergodic literature, but this was the first book I read when I realized what ergodic literature was, that it actually had a name. So that one is S. Put that. Okay. So the second one is more one that plays with the format of the story. This one is called If on a Winter's Night a Traveler. This is by Italo Calvino. And this is also a couple of stories in one. It starts out with one person named the reader going to a bookstore to buy a book. He encounters another person who is named the other reader, and he takes it upon himself to socialize and get to know her, in hopes of going on a date or something to that effect. But what ends up as a chance meeting at the bookstore turns into kind of a long-term relationship that involves the book that they both picked up off the shelf. And that book, it was called If on a Winter's Night a Traveler. So the ergodic part of it is, as the two people read the book, once they get into get past the first chapter, it becomes another book. So and there's I guess that maybe there was some sort of issue with the printing at the publisher, but they want to know more about the original book that they chose to pick up, If on a Winter's Night a Traveler. But in reading what's in the rest of the book, they're interested about that too. So now they've got two books that they want to find the ending of. And it kind of continues in this vein. They go on the search for the rest of the first book as well as the rest of the second book. And in the process, there's always some sort of interruption, whether it be the book wasn't complete, or the book, or it was a manuscript and we don't have the full manuscript. Different versions of that. It's basically, you get a whole bunch of first chapters, and it does include the first chapters in this book to tell the story. But each first chapter is a book kind of a different genre even. So like there's fantasy, horror, history, autobiography. It's several different types of fiction novels. So it's just really fascinating. And one of the things I loved about this is the author of the book. So Italo is actually a prominent part of the book as well. I feel like he puts himself in it and talking directly to the reader. So talking directly to us. And let me see if I can give you an example. So the first chapter is all about going into a bookstore to find a book. And it makes going into a store to find a book this whole battle almost. It talks about storming the ranks. All right. So this might be kind of a long passage, but it really captures what I was trying to explain. So in the bookshop window, you have promptly identified the cover with the title that you're looking for. Following this visual trail, you have forced your way through the shop, past the thick barricade of books you haven't read, which were frowning at you from the tables and shelves, trying to cow you. But you know you must never allow yourself to be awed, that among them there extend for acres and acres the books you needn't read, the books made for purposes other than reading, books read even before you open them, since they belong to the category of books read before being written. And thus you pass the outer girdle of ramparts, but then you are attacked by the infantry of books that, if you had more than one life, you would certainly also read, but unfortunately your days are numbered. With the rapid maneuver, you bypass them and move into the phalanxes of the books you mean to read, but there are others you must read first. The book's too expensive now, and you'll wait until they're remaindered. The books ditto when they come out in paperback. Books you can borrow from somebody. Books that everybody's read, so it's as if you had read them too. Eluding these assaults, you come up beneath the towers of the fortress where other troops are holding out. These troops include the books you have been planning to read for ages, the books you have been hunting for years without success, the books dealing with something you're working on at the moment, the books you want to own so they'll be handy just in case, the books you could put aside maybe to read this summer, books you need to go with other books on your shelves, the books that fill you with sudden inexplicable curiosity not easily justified. Now you have been able to reduce the countless embattled troops to an array that is, to be sure, very large but still calculable in a finite number. But this relative relief is then undermined by the ambush of books read long ago, which it's now time to reread, and the books you've always pretended to have read, and now it's time to sit down and actually read them. So it goes on and on. I love the description of the process of reading itself. So that really hooked me from the very beginning. So that was If on a Winter's Night, a Traveler by Italo Calvino. Okay, so the other books I do not have on hand, so I will be putting them up in the corner over here for you to see. And as I talk about them, so the first one is called Cain's Jawbone. This is starting to rise in popularity. What this book is a mystery. It's 6 murders that need to be solved. However, the trick to this, or the reason it's part of ergodic literature, is this book does not have its pages numbered, and all the pages are in random order. So your job is to, and I think there's talk about some of the editions are perforated, so you can actually tear the pages out so you can reorder them. So in order to solve the puzzle, you have to put the book in chronological order so that it does read from beginning to end. And then once you do that, you should be able to solve the 6 murders. So, it is high on my list to buy. I don't have it yet, but I'm very, very interested in getting to it. That's called Cain's Jawbone, and according to the post on Amazon, the little blurb about it, there's only like 3 people who have actually solved it to this point, or at least when that blurb was published. So, that's another one. The very first book that I encountered of ergodic literature was actually way back, I want to say I was actually still living at home, so like mid-teens, late teens. It's called House of Leaves. I believe it's Daniel Danielewski is the author. But the premise of the book is this family moves into a house, and the main character finds something odd about the house and ends up discovering that if you measure the inside of the house, it actually measures bigger inside than if you measure it on the outside. So somehow the house is bigger inside than it is supposed to be based on the outside walls. So that's the premise, and as you get into the book, it becomes very I guess disjointed. I'm trying to find the right word. It's disorienting. That's the word I'm looking for. And not just the story, but in the way that the story is written. So you start seeing words, the sentences on the page. So instead of getting your normal paragraphs, you start seeing the words kind of going in a spiral to the center of one page. And then you flip to the next page, and it's got like a couple lines here, no, like a couple words here, next line, couple words, next line, couple words, and it's kind of like a diagonal down the page. Um, then you'll get to a page that's like everything is crossed through except for certain words, or a bunch of it is blacked out except for certain words. I mean, it's just like completely involved. So when you're reading this book, you're reading from right to left, and then you're turning it upside down, reading. It's very much an experience. So I do plan to get that again. The first edition I had, I think I had to get rid of because it was falling apart at the spine. So, but yeah, that's on my list to get again. And then last, there's two I have in mind. I don't know much about these yet. I haven't had a chance to see these myself, but I've read a little bit about them. The first one is called Multiple Choice. And this book is told in the form of a multiple choice quiz. So, based on what Amazon was saying, you engage with the writer in answering the questions, some of them unsolvable, and it sounds really interesting. So, just just the thought of it, reading a book with multiple choice questions, like that's the text of the book. I'm gonna see if I can look at a like the first couple pages, do a little preview. And then the very last one is called Turn Glass. And this one, it's a story in two parts. And the books themselves, the two parts are back to back, put together in one book cover. But if you read the front, so this is another book of mine. If you look at the front, you read maybe till halfway through, and then you're supposed to flip it over and you start the second half of the book. So, and they're supposed to tie together. I don't know much about the plot of that one, but it looks like it is also about solving the murder. Oh, yes. So the book itself, so the first part is talking about the situation, so the murder of an author, and then when you flip it over, what you actually read is the book that the author wrote that was murdered. So yeah, I'm excited to read that too. So I've got like 3 on my TBR that are ergodic, and there's many others that I've encountered. I've seen some other YouTubers talk about ergodic literature that they've encountered. So many. I've become a big fan of this because I do like things that are experiences. So to be able to not only read a book, but engage with it in some way is something that fascinates me. And as I find others and read them, I will share them with you. Definitely appreciate you taking the time to watch today. If you enjoyed what you saw, please give it a like. If you would like to see more from me, go ahead and subscribe and hit the bell icon to get notifications. And then I would love to hear in the comments if any of you have heard of any of these books, if you've heard of them, have you read them, like any thoughts you have about these books, or if you happen to know of other books that are like this that I didn't mention. I would love to hear that too, so I could add more to my ergodic TBR. But thanks you guys for watching, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.